everyone. Mama D here. Happy Father's Day to you. You never know what little Ron Herds or RTC2s are running around, and they just didn't tell you.
This is We All Be News and Radio.
Ron Hurd. Get up out of bed. Let's go. Let's go. Ron Hurd. That's the word. Get out of bed. Give me a jingle. My number 051. Get out of bed. Let's go. Don't be afraid. This is Herb Smith calling you. Herb Smith. All right, I know you're famous and all that kind of stuff, but let's go. Get out of bed.
And welcome back, family, to another. Wonderful edutainment edition of the Artivist Presents We All Be News and Radio. I'm your host for the empowerment segment, Brother Ron, also known as R2C2H2, the Artivist. So we got a great one for you all today. It is about rebooting after Ferguson. How to make it in a world that is not made for you. And you know who we talking about when we say you. So please feel free, family, to join in the conversation, to call in area code 646-652-4593. That's area code 646-652-4593. If you're scared to go on the air, we'll open up the chat room shortly. But without further ado, I got a great, wonderful, powerful guest on today. She's a beautiful woman, a true liberator, co-founder of the Black Autonomy Federation. Before that, a proud Black Panther extraordinaire, a true journalist, a true revolutionary. None other than Sister JoNina Ervin is joining us today live. How you doing today, sister?
I'm doing all right, Brother Ron. How are you?
I'm good. I woke up this morning, I'm talking to you. So I can't complain. So I have to get to it. I mean, y'all been very active. You got your own radio show. I really love what y'all doing, the Black Autonomy Federation Radio. But you tell us a little bit about your organization.
Well, the Black Autonomy Federation itself was founded in Memphis in June of 2012. And it was founded as an organization that is really seeking to work in low-income, poor Black communities to organize around various issues. A lot of time, poor, low-income Black people get ignored. Too many times the politicians are elected or whatever to speak for them, and a lot of times they don't know, they can't do it because they don't really know the issues the way that poor, low-income Black people do. So that's our focus. We organize around issues of police brutality. We also are seeking revolutionary gang truce in the Black community, and also we are trying to build up a nationwide movement so we can deal with our problems of poverty and unemployment. We have mass Black poverty and mass poverty, unemployment across the country. So those are some of the things that we're working on.
I want to ask you, so you said that the Black Autonomy Federation was founded in Memphis. Why Memphis and why now?
Well, it was started in Memphis, I guess, because two of the three co-founders live in Memphis. Myself, my husband, Brother Lorenzo Kambua Ervin, we're here in Memphis. Our other co-founder is Brother Ross Manyega Nokashir. And one of the things that we saw in Memphis was that Memphis is the poorest big city in the United States of America, the whole country, the poorest big city of over 650,000 people. But yet we didn't see any grassroots movements or of low-income, working-class people working on any of the issues that most impact us. We didn't see that at all. And we felt like it was time for something like that to happen in Memphis because it is the poorest big city, and it's a majority Black city. For those who don't know, Memphis is about 67% Black. So to be the poorest big city in the United States and to be a majority Black city and not to have anything going on here in terms of grassroots, low-income, poor, working-class people, we decided that this was the place to get something going.
Okay, that's incredible. And speaking of getting something going, we know this is a river town. I like to call it plantation town, the Mississippi River. There's something happened in the upriver with St. Louis, the Ferguson Insurrection. So how does that figure into the equation with what y'all doing with the Black Autonomy Federation in Memphis? Do you see a similar thing happening in Memphis?
Well, we were very, very sorry for the tragic murder of Michael Brown Jr. in Ferguson. That was a terrible thing. We believe it was just outright murder by that white cop. But sometimes out of bad things, good things can happen. And this brother's murder got ignited, as you said yourself, an insurrection, a black insurrection there in the black community there, which we in the Black Autonomy Federation, certainly support. We here in Memphis, since 2012, since the summer of 2012, we have been dealing with an issue here of trying to organize the community around the problem here of the deadly force used by the Memphis Police Department. Between February 2012 and October 2013, the Memphis Police Department killed 23 people. That's in less than an 18-month period. February 2012, October 2013. During this time period, no other police force in the United States killed more people than the Memphis Police Department. Memphis led, and I think it still leads the nation in the use of deadly force. So we see what happened in Ferguson relating to what we're trying to do here is we're trying to build a movement here where we can begin to get the prosecution of the police officers here who have killed those 23 people, at least those 23. Out of all those police officers, only one was prosecuted. So you got 22 others that were not.
Well, for me, like, when you say those numbers, it's mind-blowing. Because when we think about police brutality, Memphis is not the first place that comes up. You think about New York or even L.A. or places like that. Why is Memphis under the radar, you feel? Or is it under the radar?
Well, I think there's been a deliberate effort here by the politicians, by big business here to keep it under the radar in terms of the use of deadly force. Because as I said, Memphis leads the country right now in terms of deadly force. I think there's been a concerted, plot. I'm going to use the word plot because I think it is, to keep Memphis under the radar. So all people will think about is Chicago and L.A. and New York, where lots of people, black people, are killed every year. But none of those cities had as much as Memphis in the time period that I mentioned. So we think this is a deliberate plot to keep Memphis, to keep this whole thing undercover. You take a week ago, Friday, I believe it was, there was a front page article in the Commercial Appeal, the daily newspaper here in Memphis, and the headline said, deadly force rarely used by Memphis police. I couldn't believe that. I said, you're kidding me. Rarely used? And the article, of course, was talking about what happened in Ferguson. And this article, written in August of 2014, only mentioned, they said, well, in the first 6 months of 2013, 6 people were killed. Well, what about there were a total of, I believe, 12, not 12, but a total of maybe 6 other people that were killed in 2013, not to mention the 11 that were killed in 2012. We know about this because the Commercial Appeal and the other news media reported it. Yet the Commercial Appeal never in that article talked about the fact that 23 were killed in 2012 and 2013 by the police. So we think that the daily newspaper here is part of the cover-up in terms of not keeping Memphis under the radar in terms of the deadly force by police.
Oh, wow, that's incredible. I mean, to say all that and to realize that, because I just kept on thinking to myself, if this as bad as people say, how come more people are not concerned? And you also spoke to the issue earlier of it being, how rough is it to organize in Memphis, to organize the people, to galvanize the people? How tough is it?
Well, it's difficult because, there is not a long history here of radical black protest movement. I did not live in Memphis back in the old Black Power days, but one of our members here, our steering committee members, did, and he's told us, other people have too, for that matter, that the Black Power movement in Memphis was quickly squashed by the FBI and the police here. So what we have today here, we have a city, the average age in Memphis, the last time I checked, was only about 35, 36 years old. So that's young to me because I'm a senior citizen. But this is a generation of people who grew up without seeing any kind of really radical, strong black protests. The civil rights groups here in this city have long since been collaborators with the politicians and big business. None of these groups, not one word has been heard from the NAACP in Memphis, which at one point had the largest NAACP chapter in the United States. I don't know if that's still true, but it did have one of the largest. But since these murders by the police started back in 2012, we've not heard one word from the NAACP about all the people that have been killed. So it's hard to organize here because none of the old-line civil rights groups are speaking out or doing anything about it. The news media here, when someone is killed by the police, the news media reports it, but the news media just reports these cases one by one. At no point have you ever seen anything either in the newspaper, the commercial appeal, or any of the local TV stations. None of them, and we monitor them all the time, none of them has ever said that there have been 23 people killed were killed in 2012, 2013. So people here in Memphis don't know what the issue is. I can tell you from personal experience, this year so far, we have organized two, what we call them informational pickets downtown in front of the Memphis Police Headquarters. And at that picket, we pass out the body count. This is a document we have developed that lists all the people killed by the Memphis Police Department in 2012, 2013, at least the ones the news media reported. And I can tell you from personal observation, when we pass that out to people passing by, I have seen people take that and look at it and say, all these people were killed? And they have sat down there on the curb or on the sidewalk, and they have read that whole list. And they have told us, we had no idea. Nobody said anything in the news media about this. So the problem is the people don't know. And, we're doing our best to get the word out, but because of our position on this, the news media is not anxious to report what we say. So we do not have access. I'm not going to lie to you. We do not have access to the mainstream news media in this city. There's no question about it.
I'm actually this as well. I know the Department of Justice is now looking into the Ferguson Police Department, but for 20 years, according to reports, they have actually not kept great records on police brutality cases throughout the nation. How is it for you as a grassroots organizer and activist to keep tabs on police brutality incidents? I mean, how difficult is that to keep accurate statistics?
Well, we can't in Memphis. In terms of, if people are killed, the news media will always at some point report that, although sometimes it is difficult to get some names. If someone dies in the Shelby County Jail, it's very hard to get that. But otherwise, the news media will usually report it, and that's how we know, because they have reported it. Now, so we base our information, a lot of what we know, we base on that. But it is difficult. We don't know. Those are the people killed. We know every day people get beat, arrested, and whatever. Police brutality goes on in this city everywhere, every day. It's difficult for us to know that. We encourage people who witness incidents of police brutality to share that information with us, to let us know what they see, when and where. They can remain anonymous if they don't want to give their names. They can call us. We have what we call a cop watch, a Black Autonomy cop watch. They can call us at 901-674-8430. That would help us. We're not lawyers. We cannot go to the scene of every incident, but that would help us at least to be able to keep track more of just the everyday things of racial profiling and where the cops beat people up and everything. That would help us greatly.
So, yeah, I'm definitely hearing that because I know y'all in Memphis, and there's no wonder that y'all in the same place where Ida B. Wells Barnett started her anti-lynching campaign in her newspaper office on Beale Street. And, like, the people must know before they can act, so there's no greater educated than the press. But the press is not allowing people like you all a platform to disseminate the information, but you all have a platform to disseminate the information. Can you talk about your own media efforts?
Yes, we do. Of course, we have a page on Facebook, Black Autonomy Federation. That's our main Facebook page. And for people who live on the West Coast, if you live in Los Angeles, you can type in Black Autonomy Federation Los Angeles. We also have several folks working along the East Coast. That's Black Autonomy Northeast, BANE. Those are all on Facebook. And we also have a weekly internet radio show on as part of the Black Talk Radio Network that comes on Saturdays, every Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And if people can call in and listen to that show live, if they have time to listen to it live, and you can call in. I'm going to give you the call-in number for that. That is 1-530-881-1500, and then you have to punch in the access code 549032 and hit the pound sign. Then, and that's just to listen only. Then, as you're listening, if you want to make a comment, you would press the star button, then number 6 and number 1 if you want to make a comment. So that is our other platform, is our internet radio show every Saturday. And again, that is 8 p.m. Eastern. If you can't listen to it live, you can type in your search engine, Black Autonomy Federation podcast, and it'll take you to the link where you can hear the podcast.
I will tell you something. That's one of my favorite shows on, internet radio or terrestrial radio. I got one of the best programs going. I really enjoy it every week. It's like a clinic. Y'all put on, a history lesson. But also y'all talking about current events, and you and Brother Lorenzo and Brother Roz and everybody else does an outstanding job on that program. I salute you all. And shout out to Brother Scotty Reed for putting it all together with the Black Talk Radio Network as well.
Yes.
Great show. I want to ask you this. Do you differentiate between the victims on the list? You said that 23 civilians were killed by Memphis Police Department in 2 years. Is there a difference between criminals and actual innocent people? Y'all differentiate between people that... No,
okay. We do not. We just strictly... we don't care what your race, nationality, age, or what. Right now, we call our list the Memphis Body Count. If you go on Facebook, you can find that, the Memphis Body Count. We do not differentiate on so-called criminals or whatever. If you were killed, whether you were shot and killed by the Memphis police or you were beaten, and some people were beaten to death by the police, that's all we're worried about. You were killed while you were in the custody of a Memphis police officer, or they were pursuing you. That's our only thing.
Let me ask you this. I've been asking people this question for the last 3 weeks. Can a black person get justice in this system as it is now?
Well, no. They cannot. That's why we have to organize. Why we in the Black Autonomy Federation, we're trying to organize, a campaign here starting in Memphis, because that's where we got started, and as our other affiliated groups around the country we're trying to do a whole thing about stop police murder, prosecute the cops. We have to get organized. We have to begin to gather information about the killings that police do, but not only killings, just try to keep better track of the brutality that they do, and to, protest when you can, take people. You don't have to have huge numbers. You don't have to have a big march to any place to do a protest. Those are good, and we've done them, but you can't always do that. You can do simple, basic things like take 3-4 people down to your local police police department and just do what we call an informational picket. And there you just stand and you pass out information about the police. Just give it to people, to let people know what's going on. People don't always know what's going on. But if we don't get out there in the streets and begin to organize movements, we will not be able to get justice. The only way we get justice is to be out in the streets. None of the gains that black people in America got back in the civil rights movement in the 50s and 60s and the Black Power movement, late 60s, early 70s, none of that was given by the benevolence of the U.S. government. That was given as the basis of people getting out in the street, protesting, and many people did have to get killed, unfortunately. That's why what changes were brought about. And we have to do that now. We have to continue to do that.
You know what's crazy, though? Like the fact that I went to Ferguson. I spent a couple of days up there. And, Missouri is known as the show me state, but I call it misery. I don't call it Missouri or Missouri. I call it misery. That's how I love the joke for people who spend some time up there. I went to school up there, college up there. But when I tell people that 23 folks were killed by the Memphis Police Department in 2 years up in St. Louis and Ferguson, blows their mind. It blew their mind. What's wrong? What's going on down there? People try to figure this out. And the only reason I know about this is because of the work that y'all been doing, the unsung work y'all have been doing, trying to inform the people about what's going on. And I think what happened in the Ferguson situation, because I've been there, I've been to Canfield Drive, was that a lot of folks saw what happened to Mike Brown. A lot of folks had to see what happened to him. But it's strange because when you look at New York, they have a lot of police killings of black males up in New York for years. But people think of New York as being such a liberal bastion, as they say. But like Malcolm said, anything south of Canada is the South. Okay, so why did it erupt there and not in New York, where you had so many killings of unarmed black men? What is your theory on that?
That I thought about that when it happened, and I don't know if I have a good answer for you. I don't live on the East Coast, never lived in New York. I can only just speculate. You have a lot of different groups in the New York metro area who do work on police brutality issues. I don't know whether or not maybe they had some activities that just didn't get a lot of attention. Some of this is media censorship. Now, we have to keep that in mind. The media decides when they're going to cover something, how much of it they're going to cover, and how long. Now, in Ferguson, Missouri, I think got their attention because here's a small town, less than 25,000 people, but a majority black population. And it was like, wow, why would this? It was unique that a rebellion, an insurrection, as you correctly call it, it was an insurrection. An insurrection like this would break out in a small town like this. So it's difficult to know, Brother Ron, why, there have been things that have happened in New York, but sometimes those things are short-lived, and sometimes the media purposely does not let the people know about it. People have to understand that the news media, we talk about freedom of the press, but the producers of these TV shows and national network and cable network TV shows, and as well as the major newspapers in the country, they meet every day and they decide what they're going to put on the TV news or what they're going to put on the front page of the paper, and they also decide where they're going to put it in the broadcast and how long they're going to do it. Okay, that's a very concerted topic on their part. Many of them. These television networks have sponsors from big business, okay, and they have pressure from big business to not necessarily report everything as long as they should. So all those things are a factor.
Yeah, definitely, most definitely. I was just thinking, the media is so powerful in shaping people's opinions. Like Brother Malcolm said, it's the most powerful force on the earth. I mean, because it can make your friends your enemies and your enemies your friends, or they can make the perception of that. So I think it's so important. Well, it's kind of what troubled me in this period is the lack of a black media presence. Because even when you refer back to the civil rights movement, you did have a strong black media. You had the Chicago Defender, you had John H. Johnson up in Chicago, you had the Pittsburgh Courier. You had so many different outlets back then documenting or covering what they called as the race beat. Is it dangerous to think that there's no black media presence right now with so many black folks out catching hell?
Well, certainly it's changed. Right now, there are a lot of internet sites that deal with black news a lot more effectively than the print publications do. Even though a lot of them do have websites and everything. I mean, you take the part of what we're part of with the Black Autonomy Federation radio show. We're part of the programming on Black Talk Radio Network, which to me is far more effective, and things like your show, far more effective, reaches more people. The old line black newspapers, even though many of them they're on the internet along with their print edition, it's sad to say many of them now are just advertising sheets, or they just carry press releases a lot of times from old line civil rights groups. They're not doing any hard-hitting analysis of what's going on in the black community right now. They're not. So the kind of old, vibrant, active black press we had back in the day, that kind, that does not exist anymore. We really have to start looking at these internet sites more, much more vibrant, reporting much more in-depth about what's happening with our people.
And I also realized a trick of corporate media, I just realized this in the last several years, is that they'll release the most important news information on Fridays. Like the most important stories of the week will sometimes be released on Fridays, the most breaking news. Going into the weekend. So it's really a circus. It's all about distraction. They got you looking at the left hand while the right hand is doing something else over here. But speaking of distraction, speaking of also the history and whatnot, you being an organizer for so long, first with the Black Panther Party and now with the Black Autonomy Federation, I just want to get your critical eye, your take on the Ferguson movement, the pros and cons of it. Like, why are the people getting right and why are they getting wrong in the Ferguson movement?
Well, this was the Ferguson. This was to date in our history, the Ferguson Insurrection was the longest black insurrection, rebellion in the United States. This was far longer. As a teenager, I didn't witness personally, but I saw on the news the Watts Rebellion in Los Angeles. And a few years later, we had the Detroit Rebellion and the one in Newark, Tennessee. Neither one of those lasted any longer than about 6 days. Even the L.A. Rebellion, when those white cops were acquitted for viciously beating Rodney King back in 1992, even that L.A. Rebellion then did not last that long. So this was an historic insurrection. I believe 12 days. So we have to take note of that. 12 days in a city, less than 25,000 people, but a majority black city. So it was an historic thing. And in my opinion, I don't live there. I grew up in Missouri. I actually grew up in Jefferson City, Missouri, but I left there long ago when I finished high school. So, but my opinion is that the Mike Brown's murder by the white cop there, that triggered for many black people in that city decades of oppression by the white ruling class there. You have a police department there that has been mistreating black people for a long time, and I heard this on the news because I heard black people on the news talk about it. You got 50-some-odd police officers in Ferguson, but only 3 out of those 55 are black. How are you going to have a city that's 67% black, but you only have 3 black police officers? Okay, you've got a white mayor. You've got I think I was told. I heard somebody said on one of the newscasts, and I'm sorry if I'm misquoting them. They only have 1 black city councilman in Ferguson. And you got 67% black people there. So to me, what happened in Ferguson was Mike Brown's murder. Just a lot of people there said, we've had it. We're tired of how we're being beaten up, harassed by the cops and also the politicians either. And you have high unemployment in Ferguson. That was broadcast on the news. So I think if you look back at history, what was similar between Ferguson and the Watts Rebellion of 1965 in L.A., the 67 rebellions in Detroit and Newark, New Jersey, the one thing they all had in common was they all got started because of an incident of police brutality or murder. None of the earlier rebellions no one was actually killed that set it off. It was brutality. But they all involved police misconduct in some way. So to me, that's very interesting, because that's the kind of thing that it takes to trigger a lot of times black people. The police are, in fact, an occupying army in the black communities of America. They have been forever. And when something like what happened to Mike Brown happens, sometimes black people, particularly in a city like Ferguson, I think they just said, we'd had it, we're sick of this, now they killed this young brother, and they just, they rebelled. They had the insurrection.
Also, it dispels a myth with Ferguson. I started digging deeper that the media didn't really focus on. The myth of black-on-black crime is clearly dispelled in Ferguson in terms of black folks being so violent among each other. I look at the there stats. I know how unemployment leads to robberies and burglaries, but you look at murders. In 2010, Ferguson did not have one murder. There was no homicide in Ferguson. In 2012, it was only 2 people that were killed in Ferguson. So I mean, like, the black folks were not violent, but it's like when I was down there, it was the police being provocative and being agitators. And like you said, it's an occupying army. The black folks were peaceful. They was really building community. They really was like working with each other. You had GDs and vice lords and all types of folks that say, you know what, it's us against them. And then I felt safe in Ferguson among the people, not with the police or the National Guard, but among the people. I felt safe. I was safe just being there at midnight with the people of Ferguson. Yeah. So, I mean, what do you say about that when people say, God, I thought the black folks were violent and all this stuff, but you look at the insurrection. Who was killed by black folks during the insurrection?
Back in the 60s?
I mean, right now, the one that happened recently. Nobody was killed on the side of the blacks or the other people organizing, the civilians. It was most of the police doing all the shooting and
that's right. Well, the Ferguson police were the ones who were the provocateurs in this case. They're the ones. I mean, don't take my word for it. If you watch it on TV, everybody knows that. And let me say something briefly here about this whole thing about black-on-black crime. This is all a myth. If you want to look at statistics about white-on-white crime, when white people commit crimes on white people, the statistics on that are no worse or no different than when black people may commit crime on other people. The thing about it is, people commit crimes close to home, right? So if you live in a black community, you may not go all the way across town to commit a crime. Same thing is true for white people. The politicians and the ruling class use this myth of black-on-black crime to make us feel like we're worse than other people in this country. And it's a lie. And we've got to begin to start to dispel that lie. We most definitely are not worse. And that is definitely a lie. Brother Ron, I am coming towards a time where I'm going to have to let you go. Is there one thing I wanted to say on here for those of your listeners who do live in Memphis? I want to invite them to the Memphis Black Autonomy Federation meeting tomorrow, Saturday, September 6th. And it will be from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., and it'll be at the Java Complex, 1423 Elvis Presley Boulevard in Memphis. And we will be talking about what happened in Ferguson, the rebellion there, the black insurrection there, and why we have to begin to organize a movement here in Memphis in terms of these 23 people who've been killed in Memphis to stop police murder in the city of Memphis. So we welcome people in the Memphis area to join us tomorrow from 1 to 3 p.m. at 1423 Elvis Presley Boulevard.
Sister JoNina, thank you so much for your time and the words of great devotion. And we love you madly. And keep producing and pushing. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Brother Ron. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Yes, ma'am. Bye-bye. And we're going to move on to our next part of our segment. That was Sister JoNina Ervin, co-founder of the Black Autonomy Federation in Memphis, Tennessee, dealing with police brutality on the local and national level.